Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Guys, the theme for today's video is to stop comparing yourself with celebrities and athletes, right? Those guys are living on a different timeline than the rest of us, right? I see, and this video honestly comes from these memes I see on Instagram or on social media where they talk about, oh, Mbappe is 18 years old or Mbappe is 23 years old and he's earning this much money. He's a multimillionaire. What were you doing when you were 23 or what were you doing when you were 18? Well, I was struggling. I didn't have God-given talent, right? Uh, so I'm living on a different timeline than Kylian Mbappe is. Or if you take a celebrity, for example, let's say Justin Bieber, right? Oh, when Justin Bieber was 18 years old, he had this much money and he had these many labels sold and or records sold, right? And he was signed to such and such label. It doesn't correlate to you, right? It doesn't correlate to you. And these memes and these jokes really piss me off because to a certain extent subconsciously they do compare your like you do end up comparing yourself with these high profile names after looking at content like this, right? And I just want to tell you guys to give yourself a break, right? We are not living on the same timeline as these guys, right? Let's Justin Bieber, for example, he's already peaked. He will never be the same as he was when he was 21 years old. He will never have the same amount of fame. He will never have the same amount of clout. I want to say money, but you know, if he's made smart investments, then he's probably going to grow in money from here on in. But he has peaked. So all I want to say is celebrities, except for movie stars, right? Except movie stars and movie stars that are guys. I think women movie stars also peak very, very early in their lives. However, guys, they usually end up peaking later in their careers. And I'll give you a few examples of those guys. So if there's anyone you want to be comparing your timeline with to a certain extent, I think it would be to be actors, right? Because usually actors peak later in their careers and peak later in their lives. However, comparing yourself to singers or athletes or any other celebrity for that matter is not the right thing to do, right? It's just not the right thing to do to compare your timeline with theirs because they've been given a talent, right? Uh, he Bieber had a good voice. Let's say you take that voice away from him, and he would be nobody at 21 years of age, right? And he's already peaked. He's done, right? All the girls that were buying his labels are now what 28, 29 years old themselves. They're not going out buying their label. I'll give you another example, right? Justin Timberlake, for example, when he was young, he peaked hard. There were women were swooning over him. He had a bunch of fans, crazy clout, was selling stadiums for his shows and concerts. But look at him now, right? He's turned himself into a movie star. He's adapted well. However, he won't be as famous as he once was because it's usually the women who go out and buy the labels for these guys or oh sorry buy the records for these guys and you know swoon over them and make them as big as they are. You hardly see a guy swooning over a singer. In today's time, maybe rappers, right? You see guys become really big fans and uh, you know give a cult following to a certain rapper. But I've usually seen that happen when the rappers have died. Honestly, it's after their death that men start taking them seriously and are like, oh yeah, this guy was a lost talent, whatever. However, mostly with these rock stars and with these singers, it's the girls that make them famous. And as the girls grow older, they come out of that phase of being a young girl swooning over a young man who's really famous. They get over that stage, right? So these guys have already peaked. My essential point is these guys have already peaked. They will never peak at 35 or 36 years of age, which I say that a normal man should be peaking. Right? I believe that my peak is going to hit me in the early to mid 30s. That's when my peak is going to be. And you look at these athletes as well. Same goes for the athletes, right? Cristiano Ronaldo is never going to be the same as he was when he was 30, 31 years old. And this guy had a long, long peak. His peak probably lasted from all the way from 24 to 30, 34, I'd say, right? He had a 10-year peak, and he's a God-gifted talent. He's one of the best in his position in his sport. You take another example, Hazard, right? Another great athlete, insane soccer player, insane football player. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one, but insane football player, right? 27 hits his peak, makes his big move to Real Madrid. He's in his early 30s now, and no one cares about him. No one even talks about him anymore, right? So these guys peak very early in their lives. They don't peak like the rest of us. So I just want you guys to know that we'll take another example. I love giving these examples because you guys can actually learn something from them, right? These are examples that you can actually see and visualize. For you don't even need to visualize. Actually, you can see it right in front of you. You take Kylie Jenner for example, right? She was famous since she was a kid. She was on that show, whatever their show is called, right? She people trusted her, and she became this self-made multimillionaire, the youngest, or self-made billionaire, or the youngest billionaire in the world. Well, she didn't do it all by herself. She had clout passed down to her from her family, right? The rest of the girls her age are not living the same life as her. They need to build a brand. They need to build their own name. Kylie Jenner, everybody trust because they've seen her on a famous show. But okay, if this girl is selling makeup, she must be doing something good, even if it isn't, right? Her brand is already made. Most girls don't have that liberty. Most girls will first have to go out, spend money on buying the makeup in the first place, then reselling it and rebranding it, and who's gonna trust them initially, right? The sales are gonna be low. They don't have their name like they don't people don't trust them. They don't have the branding done just yet. Their name is not a brand. So it goes the same for women. Stop comparing yourself to these celebrities. Like, it does nobody any good. Again, for guys, the only celebrities I can somewhat justify you guys comparing yourself to are male actors, right? Because if you look at some male actors, and I'm going to give you a few examples here. These guys usually end up peaking later in life, right? You look at Michael B. Jordan, right? He's huge right now. He was huge a couple years ago, and he's what, 36, 38 years old. I'm not certain, but he's in his mid to late 30s now, and that's when he picked up when he got the role in Creed, when he did the role of Killmonger in Black Panther. That's when his career really picked up. Nobody remembers him from 10 years ago when he was a skinny little twig in his late or mid 20s. Nobody remembers him. He peaked later in life. Just like that, one of the biggest examples of a guy who peaked early but had a long peak was Leonardo DiCaprio. And I would argue that his peak hit later in his life too. Yes, you can talk about Titanic and how famous he got because of that, but nobody really talked about him after that movie till a few years ago, right? When he started, always been a phenomenal actor, but he had to put in a bunch of movies in a row, and then people started recognizing him for his older movies after the latest ones came out, and he was around 35, 36 years of age, and people started talking about him more, right? You see it with male actors all the time. Henry Cavill, no one was talking about him when he was doing The Tudors. No one was talking about him when he was doing I forgot the name of the show, but the show that he got really ripped for. It was based in Spartan time or whatever. Right? No one was talking about him then. Everybody started talking about him when he landed that role in Man of Steel. Then he landed the role in Witcher, and he's this massive star who's doing Mission Impossible now. And guess what his age is? He's again in his mid-30s, right? So that's the timeline we should be following. As guys, I think we're gonna hit our peak early to mid-30s after putting in 10 to 15 years of hard work. I'm not talking about the guys who don't put in any hard work and are like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna hit my peak. No, your peak is probably 18, as young as you were, right? Or 20, 25. That's probably your peak because you were spending your time not putting in the work. You were spending your time partying, doing drugs, doing alcohol, whatever. But I'm talking about guys on self-improvement, guys putting in the work right now, guys hitting the gym, guys eating well, guys taking care of their skin, guys upping their dressing game, guys taking care of their health and body and money. They're trying to grind. They're failing in businesses. They're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to brand themselves. I'm talking about these guys, right? It's gonna take time. If you try to set up a business, it's gonna take time. You're gonna fail. You're gonna crash in a bunch of businesses. You're gonna learn a few things, and then you're gonna succeed. Let's say you wanna get really big in the position that you're working at, right? You're working a job. You wanna get at a really high position in that company. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take hours and hours of work. It's gonna take weekends that you put in overtime, and sometimes not even get paid for them because you're just doing that so that the manager or your senior likes you, essentially, right? So to climb that ladder in the corporate world too, you need time. Most men start hitting that good money area when they're hit around 35, 36 years age. When they're older, people start taking them more seriously. They're more experienced in their craft, right? No matter what you're doing, whether you're doing a business or a job. So you're gonna make you're going to start making a very good amount of money. And then if you've kept all the other facets of your life in check, you've kept the gym in check, you've kept the skincare in check, you've kept the dressing sense in check, you've kept the life setup in check, and all the other things that I've talked about in my other videos in check, then you hit your peak. Then you're like, okay, now people are noticing me. Now girls are actually swooning over me like they would over a rock star, or they were over Justin Bieber a few years ago. So that's it, guys. Stop comparing yourself to these celebrities. Stop asking yourself, oh, this guy's 18 years old and he's doing this, and when I was 18 I was playing some video games. Well, that's because we were living in a different timeline. We weren't gifted like Mbappe was. We're not gifted like Ronaldo was. We're not gifted like Bieber was, right? So that's about it, guys. That's the point of this video. Stop comparing yourself with these timelines. You have your own. You have your own, and give yourself some time. Cut yourself some slack. You don't have to be a millionaire at 25 years of age. And honestly, I'd much rather be a millionaire later in life than earlier in life, because I would know how to deal with that money better. Guys, I'm only 23 years old, right? And I can see how immature I am in certain ways. Like, I saw how immature I was today with something I did, right? Just moments of weakness. But as you get older, as you get more mature, as you go through more life experiences, you're not going to have those moments of weaknesses. You're not going to have those moments of loose temper, or you're not going to have those moments of dumb decision. You're going to be very wise, and the wiser you are, the richer you want to be, right? You want to be rich when you're wise. If you're unwise and you're rich, you lose that all. There's no point of it, right? You'll make one emotional decision and you will lose everything. There's a high chance of that happening. I've seen it happen to people. So you want to be rich when you're wise. Hence, I'd much rather, you see it all the time. You see all these athletes go broke. You saw Ronaldinho is broke. Ronaldinho is a name that everyone recognizes, right? He peaked early in his life, made a bunch of money, was at one point the highest transfer in the world, right? Where is he now? He was sitting in a prison a few months ago. He went broke, right? That's what happens when you get all this money and you're not wise with it, right? Now, obviously, Mbappe is a different case. This guy's loaded, and he has very smart people around him. He has wise people around him, so he doesn't need to worry about making those wise decisions. Us normal people, we don't have that. We don't have financial teams looking after us. We don't have managers looking after us. We don't have these expensive hires looking after our wealth. We need to make these decisions by ourselves. So I'd much rather be in a position where I'm wiser and making these decisions. So guys, the later the better, right? It's just that we require a little bit more patience. We require a little bit more tawakkul, a little bit more trust in God, and a little bit more trust in ourselves to get the job done, right? To put in the hard work for a few years. So that's about it, guys. That's all there is to this video. Don't compare yourself with these celebrities. If you really want to, then maybe look at male actors, because these guys also peak later in their lives. Right, you see it with them all the time. I can sit here and keep giving examples. You see it with Ryan Reynolds. You see it with Hugh Jackman. All these guys, no one was talking about them when they were 25, 24 years old. No one was talking about them then. They only hit it off after they hit their early to mid 30s, and some even late 30s, early 40s. Honestly, let's be honest here. Let's call a spade a spade. These guys hit their peak late, just like most men would. So that's it. That's about it. I've said that's it in this video like 100 times now. So I'm actually gonna end it right here. Until next time, I love you guys.